How's that sound?
It
Is that
happened
good?
just the other day.
Cool. Well,
It's getting kind of long. I could have said it wasn't my way, but I didn't, and I wonder why. I feel like letting my freak flag fly. Yes,
we're all gathered here today to honor, remember,
like I owe it.
and celebrate the life of my dearest, Susie, who left us too soon at the tender age of 64. It really means so much to me, and I know to the rest of my family, for all you guys to be here today. So, as a philosophy and history guy, I have spent a lot of time thinking about death and like dead people, which I guess is kind of how I ended up with the role of master of ceremonies today, or I actually don't know what you call the guy who leads the funeral. An officiant? I don't know. But so, MC feels a little too celebratory for the occasion. But so, I mean, obviously I've been thinking a lot about Mom's life and her death and what it all means. And I think I've come up with a way of thinking about it that helps me a little bit. So I'll share that, I guess, to start things off. So, you know, a lot of philosophers and writers and stuff throughout the years, I won't name drop, have argued that death plays a really big role in helping us to give meaning to our lives. Obviously, it's part of being alive. It helps to shape and give structure to what we're doing here. If we lived forever, we wouldn't necessarily have to ask ourselves what our life means or what we're doing, because we could always just do something else later. We could procrastinate and kick the can down the road a little bit. But death forces us to look at our limited time on earth and to ask ourselves what it means. It has a way of clarifying an individual life into some kind of coherent shape. Maybe crystallizing it is a better way of thinking about it. And it forces us to at least try to answer the question of what our life means. And looking back on Mom's life, which I've been doing a lot recently, I think Mom's answer for what her life meant and what she was doing here was very clear. She lived a life devoted to the people that she loved, which I realize now is a very Italian thing. It's all about the family. Really. I just watched The Sopranos last year, and I was singing a lot about Nonni. Yeah. Sorry. But friends and family really were everything to her. And she was always showing up and reaching out and drawing people in. And I don't think that there was really anything that Mom liked more than getting a bunch of her loved ones together in a room and then sitting back to soak up all of the cozy togetherness, preferably with a glass of Pinot Grigio and a little dog on her lap. And we all know that there was nothing that she wouldn't do for us. This commitment to her people, it comes through clearly throughout Mom's life. It's obvious for me looking back on my very happy childhood. Truly blessed. Mom was always there for me and my family. So many amazing experiences, fun little moments, and just unrelenting care and concern, even when I was being bad. Sometimes she maybe even cared a little too much. But that's okay. And so now, having gotten the chance to spend so much time with her friends in the last few weeks, it's become clear to me that the way that she showed up for me and Lizzie and Dad and Noni and Andy and everybody, is how she showed up for so many people, for all of her people, maybe her family of choice, to use a new phrase. And I guess you guys all know that, because that's why you're here. But so something that has become clear to me in the past week, kind of reflecting on all of this, is that the same unwavering commitment to loving and caring for her people persisted throughout her final years of illness. Susie absolutely knew what she was living for, and it was for us. There was this one quote that Mom kept coming back to. I think it was probably her favorite quote, and it's from Lord of the Rings, which she took me to see in theaters, probably, if you think about all three movies, at least like 20 times. Plus, we watched it like every Christmas. Anyway, the quote comes from the wizard Gandalf, who's trying to cheer up one of the sad little guys. And the little guy is complaining, and he's like, "This is so horrible. Why did this happen? I wish we didn't have to live through all this." And Gandalf looks at him, and he says, "All there is for us to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us." And when Mom was forced to make this decision, she didn't have to think twice. She had already decided a long time ago. And in the 2.5 years that she lived with her diagnosis, she devoted herself with the same passion and energy as she always did to connecting with and caring for people. Just a few examples from the last couple years. Hanging out with and caring for her mom, Misa, pretty much every day, even as the cancer took its toll. Taking me out for pizza to our favorite little spot in Carborough after pretty much all of her afternoon appointments at UNC. I think sometimes she would try to schedule them so that we could hang out afterwards. Continuing to host numerous fun gatherings at their house, including the crucial, ugly Christmas sweater parties, which really, I think, more than anything, helped me to get into the holiday spirit, which is sometimes hard for me. She continued to make new friends. She took up pickleball with a true passion in her last couple years as a fun, accessible sport that she could still do. And she played tenaciously and got other people into the sport all the way up until she was too out of breath to play. Sometimes folks would sub in for her when she got a little too tired. She tried to get all of her girlfriends into playing mahjong and pasta making in the last 6 months, I think. And she also continued to organize all these crazy trips with her crew of travel buddies, even when she was sick. Specifically, those trips include going to Alaska, Kenya, Sicily, her homeland. Well, not Sicily, but Italy. And even the last ill-fated trip to Croatia was kind of her thing that she helped to organize. And even in the very end, in the last stages of her illness, when she was really struggling, this commitment and this care came through so clearly in ways that really get to me. So, for example, on the first day when Katie and I got to Croatia, Mom was already in the hospital. We rushed out there when we heard that she had pneumonia, which I think actually was a misdiagnosis on the part of the Croatian doctors. But anyway, we rushed out there, and when we got to the hospital in Split, I was actually a little surprised because Mom seemed almost fine. She was chipper and bright-eyed, and she seemed happy. And she was even a little feisty. She was pissed about the hospital she was in. And I was like, damn, Mom's fine. I came all the way out here, and Mom's just fine. But I realize now that she was probably just so happy to have all of us together in one room that she had forgotten all about her condition and the fact that we were all huddled around a hospital bed in the nephrology ward of a dilapidated communist-era public hospital. I'll tell you guys more about that later if you want afterwards. But one thing I was thinking about is that technically this does count as a family trip to Europe. And she always did love those. A few days later, when her condition had gotten a little worse, and she was delirious from a combination of fever and injectable tramadol, which was the go-to painkiller of choice there. The doctors here were a little confused about that. She woke up when we got there for the visiting hour that they had at the Croatian hospital, and her face immediately lit up when she saw that it was us there. And then after a couple minutes, she started trying to take care of us, even though she had no idea what was going on and was in terrible shape. She said all sorts of amazing things that day, and it was actually kind of fun hanging out with her. But one of the first things she said is that she said we needed to go out and start looking for our old cat Simba because he had gotten out and she was worried that he was going to get lost. And then a little later, she reminded Dad not to forget about the dinner plans that we had made. And we didn't have any dinner plans, and she was also worried that Katie wasn't there. Katie had to go home for work after being there for, 5 days or something. Not remembering that Katie had told her that the day before. So she was confused and still just trying to care for us as best as she could. But there were also a couple very clear truths that she was still able to articulate even in this state. Things that she just knew to her core that not even the fever or the tramadol could wipe out. And 3 of them were, 1, that she loved us. She said that repeatedly. 2, that she wanted to go home and see Finley and her mom and other people. But it was that was the order. And Finley's here today with us. Thanks, Bud, for all your support. And the third undeniable truth that she articulated that day was, quote, "This hotel sucks." And she was definitely right about that. We got her into a nicer hotel in Greece after a couple days. And the Greek hospital was actually pretty nice. But so from that moment on, we had a very clear mission, me and Dad and Lizzie. I mean, it was already kind of the mission, but now we knew for sure what we had to do, and it was get Mom home, no matter what. Having a clear mission was nice. Actually, that part of the whole thing was easier than once we were home, because then it was like, now what? But, we had a mission. Lizzie and Dad love a mission. Get Mom home. And that was her clear dying wish, was to go back and to see everybody. Mostly Finley. But all you guys too. And we did it. With a lot of help from friends back home. Gerard really helped us out with the insurance company, among so many other contributions and prayers from you guys. And with massive effort from Dad and Lizzie, who were just true workhorses. And also a lot of luck. We got Mom home in time for her to see everybody and say goodbye and to have 4 or 5 good lucid days, first at UNC Hospital and then back at home in hospice. And even in her very last days, when she was wrecked, her love and her care still came through in ways that I just am never going to forget. So just a couple last examples. On my last night with her at UNC Hospital, the day before she was transferred home, the nurses allowed her to eat a little bit of food. So we ordered from the little menu, and we ordered mashed potatoes, banana pudding, and a little chicken noodle soup. And when the nurses brought it in and they served it to her, she was worried about me because they didn't serve me any food. And she had a couple bites of everything, but she kept trying to get me to eat her food. And she wouldn't relax until I had a couple of bites of the mashed potatoes. And proving that she really was an Italian mother to the bitter end. The potatoes were actually surprisingly good for hospital food. No, they had a little gravy. So another thing that happened that night that was really beautiful, and I'm so grateful for this night with her, is she woke up from a little snooze She had just started the really good stuff that day. And she looked up at me and she said, "I'm dying, you know." And I was like, "Yeah." And then she paused for a minute and kind of reflected, and then she said, "I'm just gonna miss everybody so much." And I didn't know what to say. I just kind of held her hand for a second. It was nice because we could, we could take naps and then continue the conversation later. But after a long pause, I said back to her, "Wherever you're going, we're all headed there." And she nodded and seemed to like that idea. And then she went back to sleep. And then the last thing I'll leave you guys with is, I think maybe her last lucid words before we really kicked up the pain meds. On Halloween night, she had a bout of breathlessness, and we were really worried about her. And we were all standing around, and she recovered a little bit, and she looked up at Dad, and there was a clear moment of recognition, and she said, "Are you okay?" And Dad was teary, and he nodded, and Mom said, "We're okay." And then she went back to sleep. So it's crazy thinking about it, just the consistency, just throughout all of it, to the very, very end. It's more than I can comprehend. And so, anyway, in honor of this life committed to loving everybody, we're all here today to remember and grieve and mourn. I'm deeply grateful to all of you guys who are here today and to everybody who has sent well wishes or prayers or who has really helped us in so many practical and spiritual ways in the last months and years. It's a real honor to get to stand up here and remember Mom with you. And now I would like to welcome Mom's dear, dear friend, whom she met through pickleball, is that right? Karen Gearing, who is going to lead us in an opening prayer.
Good afternoon. Please bow our heads in prayer. Our Father in heaven, we gather today with sincere gratitude for the life of Susie. We thank you for the time that we have had with Susie on this earth. We thank you for the beautiful memories that we have that will be forever in our hearts. We must acknowledge the loss and the pain that we feel today as we lose Susie, but let us remember that Susie has gone to heaven. Let us remember that heaven is a place where pain and suffering are no more. And there's a place for us in heaven where we will be reunited with Susie. Let this joyous celebration today, the stories, the photos, the memories, be the start of healing. And Father, lift our spirits as we gather, just like Susie liked us to gather, and share and remember her. Let this joyous celebration be a true testament to Susie and a life well lived. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Susan McCord Guilford, 64, Raleigh, North Carolina, passed away peacefully at home on November 2nd, 2025. Born in Italy, Mom moved to the U.S. to study at the University of South Florida. While living in Tampa, she met her to-be husband. Mom and Dad got married on July 5th, 1986. They were married for 39 years and enjoyed traveling together. One of her most favorite trips was sailing around the BVI's with her family in 2022. Mom made her home in Raleigh, where she has lived for the past 35 years. One of her greatest joys came from spending time with her family and friends, whether gathered around a table, sharing a home-cooked meal, or learning to make pasta with her friends. Her kindness, humor, and nurturing heart touched all who knew her, leaving behind a legacy of love and cherished memories. My uncle will now speak about growing up with Mom and their childhood together in Italy.
Good afternoon. My name is, for those of you who don't know me, Sandy McCord, and I'm Susie's older brother. I wrote some things down that I wanted to say, but after listening to Lizzie and Jeff, I'm going to say some other things as well. I want to talk about Susie's spirit of adventure first, and I also want to talk about her mother, Maria Luisa Bertoldo McCord. She didn't come here today. We made a determination that she was not feeling good, psychologically, physically. She's 90 years old next year in May. But she sends her love to everybody. She was with Susie at the hospital. She was with Susie the second to last day. And she said, I want to remember her like that. And it's too much for me to come here today. So I just wanted to send my mom's love as well. So I've known Susie for 64 years. Other than my mom, I think I've known her for quite a long time. And she was always my baby sister. And she was always very adventurous, and I was always worried about her because I said, oh gosh, Susie's gonna get in trouble, something's gonna happen, and I have to be responsible. And my father, William McCord, I still miss him to this day. He would be 100 years old, but he passed too soon. He was only 66. And there's a lot of similarities between Susie and my father. But yeah, I always worried about her. And you know how you have memories when you're a child, if something happens, you can remember things that happened when you were 4 or 5, but you can't remember things that happened when you were 8, 9, or 10. With Susie, that's the way it was. So a couple stories that happened, and my mom, the Italian mom, Jeff mentioned her too. Oh boy, she was feisty. She was always worried about things too. I remember I was 6 years old. Susie must have been about 4. We were in an apartment in Brindisi. That's where she was born, on the heel of the boot. I was born in Sicily. And people say, oh, well, Susie's Italian, you're Sicilian. I said, no, we're both Italian. Okay, let's get this straight. Or else I'm part of the mafia. So I'm sitting in my room. I'm playing with little soldiers, the ones that you get 100 in a box. And I thought they were that big, but actually they came out that small. That's beside the point. And I heard a scream from my mother. She's in the bathroom. And I run, and I look, and Susie had pulled up a chair, and she had gotten up in the medicine cabinet, and she had eaten some pills from my mom, and her lips were all red and things. And oh, my dad, so, they brought me to my neighbor's house. You have to spend the night. And I thought, as a child, I said, wow, I hope Susie will be okay. And she was. She came back home. In another instance, same time, same years. I was 6, and she was about 4 years old. We were driving in the Lancia Appia, no seatbelts. Nobody wore seatbelts, 1965, I guess it was. And my mom was driving, and she made a hard right down a downhill slope, and Susie's door flung open, and I was sitting in the back seat, and she had no seatbelt. And I saw her leaning out of the car, and I grabbed her instinctively. I grabbed her arm, and I was able to hold on to her. My mom just, of course, she went crazy and said, oh my God. Another time, and this is the last thing that made me worry about Susie and being the older brother. And my dad always reminded me, you're the older one, so it's always your fault. I said, okay. So Susie fell off one of those tall slides they used to have in the playgrounds. I don't know how many feet they are. Anyway, she fell. She had a concussion. And I remember driving in the back seat, and my mom was driving us around. And she said, hold her hand, make sure she doesn't go to sleep. Okay. So I promise, you know. And I worried about her for that amount of time, and I always worried about her, even after we came to the States. And I was worried about some of the guys that she was seeing, stuff like that. And then one day I was sitting there, and she met Jay at a bar or a restaurant. I forget exactly where it was. But I got to meet Jay, and I thought, I don't think I have to worry about Susie. Jay will take care of her. So, as much as I miss Susie, and as much as her family and everybody here misses her today, we will miss her more every day, every week, every month, and every year that's going to go by. Things will never be the same without her. And she was an adventurous. She always loved going places. And my father was the one that taught her how to travel and go see new places and do things. And I'll miss her. Thank you.
Lizzie and Andy, thank you so much. And Karen, thank you so much for the prayer. I'm going to play a song for Mom now. I don't know if Mom knew this song, but she did say she likes Big Thief. And this is written by the lead singer of that band. So just give me 1 second while I make sure the guitar's in tune. They're new strings. My buddy broke one 2 days ago, so they get all stretched out, out of tune. The old strings were nice. They didn't get stretched out, so we didn't have to do that. Oh yeah, also, Mom bought me this guitar when I was 21. It was my 21st birthday present. Yashar got me some other birthday presents later. I think it was a bunch of Land Shark lagers. And I was like, I don't know, what's an easy beer to drink? But thanks for that. Thanks, Mom, for the guitar. And this one's for you. Sadness is a Gift by Adrian Linker. I both know there is nothing more to say. too heavy to hold. Snow falling, try and keep from calling. Watch the spring turn to winter, fireflies all frozen. Now the seasons go so fast, thinking that this one's gonna last. Maybe the question was too much to ask. Been searching for your eyes, all I see is blue skies. And when that old man beats his crooked cane, well, it's time to let go. Oh, leaning on the windowsill, you could write me someday, and I hope you will. We could see the sadness as a gift, and still all seasons go so fast, thinking that this one's gonna last. Maybe the question was too much to ask. Second brimming with the majesty. Oh, kiss so sweet, so fine, you could hear the music inside my mind. And you showed me a place I'll find, even when I'm old. Just leaning on the windowsill, you could write me someday, and I hope you will. I can see the sadness as a gift, and still, and the seasons go so fast, hoping that this one would last. Maybe the question was too much to ask. Thanks. All right, it's Dad's turn.
Thanks, buddy.
Hey, it's okay if you cry.
Nah, don't worry. Where's my little book?
Oh yeah, the little book.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
yeah,
not here.
we got a little book. Woo.
Wow, there's a bunch of you out there. Holy cow. Susie knew how to draw a crowd.
Sorry.
Thanks. Thank you, Jeff. So I've been really struggling with what to say as a eulogy. I mean, these guys covered most of the bases already. And we were going through a bunch of pictures. I found a little book. It was buried in an old hat box full of pictures. And it was a wedding present to my mother, and it's dated September 1957. And the name of the book is The Greatest Thing in the World. This little book is a series of short essays, one of which is the name, The Greatest Thing in the World. It was written by Henry Drummond and was published in 1891. At this time in history, just like today, there were great debates between religion and natural sciences. And Drummond, who was both a professor of biology and a preacher in Scotland, took a stab at resolving this tension between faith and reason. In his research, Drummond finds that the Apostle Paul, in questioning faith, hope, and love, without hesitation states that the greatest of these is love. Paul continues, if I have all the faith so that I can remove mountains and not have love, I am nothing. Love for Paul was without a doubt the greatest thing in the world. Without getting into too much detail about the actual research and analysis that Drummond did, I found it interesting he was able to break love down into specific parts, kind of like a scientific formula, because he was a scientist. Or as he put it, after passing love through the prism of my intellect, it came out on the other side broken up into these elements. The elements that Drummond unveiled in his analysis of love were patience, kindness, generosity, humility, courtesy, good temper, guilelessness, and sincerity. He states, all of these make up the supreme gift, the stature of the perfect man or woman. What I've witnessed in the past several weeks is a huge outpouring of love from so many people. I realized that the reason for this is the amount of love that Susie shared throughout her life. Or as another Paul would put it, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. And Susie created more than her fair share. In his essay, Drummond goes into his description of the elements of love using his fancy 19th century English with lots of others and here thous and whatnots. But rather than going into all that, I thought it'd be good for us just to take some time to share some thoughts or stories of Susie's love and how it showed up in our time with her. We have witnessed her patience and kindness, generosity, unselfishness, and good temper, not to mention the true sincerity she expressed in all her acts of love in her everyday life. Obviously, Susie's love was apparent in our everyday life when we were growing up as a family. And I guess we kind of took it for granted. That's just the way it was. But in thinking back, there were a few instances, a couple of quick stories, and after I'm done, would like to invite any of you up that have something to say or some thoughts or memories to share with everybody. It'd be wonderful. But I don't know how many of you guys remember our old place on Pond Drive down at the beach about 6 years ago when Finley was about this big. He was out running around in the backyard, and he went running off on the deck, and Susie started screaming. I said, he won't jump in. Well, the little shit ran right off the end. Susie was in her pajamas and went right in after him. She didn't think twice. I had to rescue both of them. And then one year, I think it was my 40th birthday, she brought me the nicest shotgun in the world. I would have never bought that for myself. So thoughtful. My 50th birthday, she organized this huge surprise birthday party. And I'll never forget, I pull up, and we're just going over to some friend's house for dinner and some drinks. And here comes Jeff pulling up in his little Civic. I'm like, what are you doing in this neighborhood? And he was late, of course, as usual. Kind of ruined the surprise, but it was still great. So anyway, thank you all so much for being here, and I really appreciate the show of support. And anybody'd like to come up and say something?
My name's Jay Plummer. I'm a neighbor and a friend of the Guilfords. I'm so grateful to be here at this memorial service and celebration. As you know, Susie was a great entertainer and took every opportunity to celebrate, whether it's a Super Bowl or ugly Christmas sweater party or just a beautiful summer afternoon. She was quite the entertainer and celebrated everything, and I think she would be very impressed with the attendance at this celebration and the organization and how well Jeff and Jay and Andy and Lizzie handled this celebration. You know, the Plummer family and the Guilford family, we're so intertwined over the years. Lizzie and my daughter Meg in the second grade. Jeff and my son Mitch, same age, and we met at Pleasant Union. The kids went to school there, and Susie was the new PTO president, and she was butting heads with a knucklehead principal. And Jay and I were standing there because we were told to be there because, you know, what the hell we want to do at a PTO party, meeting. So we got to be friends, and over the years, his friends became my friends, and my friends became his friends. And we're all the richer. I used to go to Susie's and Jay's house, and Susie always had that smile. She could fill up a room with laughter and light. And though her life has ended, her light will always remain. We spoke of fond memories, and we all have very fond memories, and fond memories turn into treasures. And Susie, memory will always be a treasure to me. I want to end with a quote I stole from Irving Berlin, a great songwriter and composer. Susie's song is ended, but her melody will linger on. So again, thanks for being here, and please come up before I call on you. All right, thank you.
Good afternoon. Is that all right? What a week. To start, my name is Yashar Kasabi. I've had the privilege of being Jeff Guilford's friend since 7th grade when he came to our school. And man, when I heard the awful news this week, I was driving in the car. And memories are funny, man. Like, they're in there, but you never know what it's going to take for a memory to just drop out and hit you with the full emotion as if you're in that moment again. But on that drive, I remembered another drive. It was the first time Jeff's mom, Susie, drove us back from Jeff's house to drop me off after a sleepover. It was the first time I spent the night. And we were driving down Creedmoor Road on the way back home, and we fell asleep. Jeff and I both listening to Dave Matthews Band. And the next thing I remember is looking out the window, and I know it's my neighborhood, but it's a section of the neighborhood that we didn't need to be in to get to my house. Susie was driving us around the neighborhood because she didn't want to wake us up. How motherly is that? And that's the first real memory I have of Susie. But they're all like that. If it wasn't her warmth, it was her joy that would always come through. And me and Jeff, we spent so many hours upstairs playing video games, listening to Pink Floyd at 13, listening to it as if we're high, but we're really not. The music was just that good. And we would hear Jay and Susie laughing downstairs. It's like, what the hell are they laughing about? We're the kids having fun upstairs. What are they doing downstairs? And we'd go downstairs, and Jay's gone on the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. Susie's got a Pinot Grigio. We're laying on the carpet in front of the couch watching that. And that was cool to see, that we would all just hang out together. And that was the laughter, the levity that she brought to any moment. which we would feed on, and we would try to one-up her. And then there were other times too when, mothers and sons, we get into tiffs, and I remember so many occasions where Jeff and his mom would be bickering, and Jeff is winning the argument on technicalities, and it's driving Susie insane. You can tell Jeff is not getting the point. The whole message of the whole debate is something else. But I'm sitting there as a bystander, not trying to get in anyone's bad graces, and I'm like, Susie's making a couple good points. She just can't get him in between Jeff's superior debate skills, but the message is clear. And to make sure I would be invited back to the house, because I actually love spending time there, whenever we would go back to the basement to play pool or go back upstairs to play video games, I would try to carry Susie's point to Jeff and say, she had a point there, right? You lawyered your way out of that, but the message still stands. And I think that's why I kept being invited back by Susie. I knew she adored me, but that's just because I was being her ambassador. If she really knew who I was and the troublemaker I was, she probably wouldn't have invited me back. And Jeff mentioned that one of the closing lucid thoughts that Susie shared was that she would miss us. And Susie, if I can speak to you directly, you don't need to miss us, because you're with me every time I drive down Creedmoor Road. You're with me every time I pass Uno's Pizza. You're with me every time I see a pug that's struggling to breathe. So we'll miss you, because you're still with us in all of those moments because of the warmth and the joy that you shared. And we just wish that we could pay the favor back to you. And we will someday, but until then, thanks for giving us the moments that you had, and thank you for bringing us here today to remind us that it's those moments that stay with you. Everything else fades away, but we keep the moments. So, thank you guys.
Hey guys, I just want to say, I've been working at a Quaker school for the last couple years, and they're really into sitting in silence until you feel moved. If you feel moved, there's no pressure. We're not going to call on you. Thank you so much, Jay and Yushar, for having such beautiful things to say just in your back pocket. That was truly beautiful. But I think what we could do here for the next, couple minutes, we can just sit here and think about Susie. And if something comes up and you remember it and you want to share anything at all, you're totally welcome to. And even if we just sit here for 2 or 3 minutes quietly, and that's all we do, as long as we're all sitting here remembering Mom, I think that's a really worthy tribute. So I'm going to step back down and take a couple minutes, and if you feel moved, come on up, and if you don't feel moved to speak, I know you still feel moved.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chuck Smith, good friend of the family. A lot of notes up here I could probably steal from. I was kind of torn whether I should come up and speak, and the memories shared already go a long way to convey what we all feel about Susie and Jay. So I can't really add to that. But a couple of thoughts. Harriet Beecher Stowe once wrote that the veil of tears we shed when we lose a loved one is not just for the loss, but for words left unsaid and deeds left undone. It's a very strong message. And I think it applies to me and probably a lot of you out there. But two people never applied to with Jay and Susie, because they got 25 hours out of every day. Every minute of every day, and it was something to see, and the love between them was something to watch, and I'll always be grateful for that. One other thing I'd like to share, and I recited these words at my mom's funeral. When we were talking about musicians earlier, but the late great Warren Zevon. I'm not going to recite Werewolf in Paris, by the way. But he did write shortly before his death of pancreatic cancer a song, Keep Me in Your Heart. And I recited these lyrics at my mom's funeral, and they've always touched me, and hopefully they'll touch you as well. Shadows are falling, and I'm running out of breath. Keep me in your heart for a while. If I leave you, doesn't mean I'll love you any less. Keep me in your heart for a while. When you get up in the morning and you see that crazy sun, keep me in your heart for a while. There's a train leaving nightly. It's when all is said and done. Keep me in your heart for a while. Keep me in your heart for a while. Sometimes when you're doing simple things around the house, keep me in your heart for a while. Keep me in your thoughts. Take me to your dreams. Touch me as I fall into view. And when winter comes, keep the fires lit, and I'll be right next to you. Keep me in your heart for a while. Keep me in your heart for a while. Thank you, Jay, for sharing your life with us. We'll always remember Susie with kind and generous thoughts. Thank you.
thanks for sharing, Chuck, and thanks to you guys for holding the silence. That was a very solid 5 minutes of just sitting there. You're much better at it than the high schoolers are. But it can be tough. No pressure. There's plenty of time to share good memories later. But so, unless anybody is still feeling a burning desire to come up here, I'm going to close us out. You're just going to have to give me 1 second, because I have a list of people to thank, and it's in this pile of notes here somewhere. Yeah, there we go. So guys, on top of the grief and the heaviness of this moment, I think even more deeply, what I feel right now is just really deep gratitude for all of you guys being here, and to Mom. I've got some thank yous for Mom here, but before I get to those, I just have some specific people that I really want to thank, because so many people showed up to help us and to be there for Mom these last years and days and weeks, and So, thanks, Dad, for your just incredible care and work and being there with Mom and just grinding it out with the insurance company day after day for 12 days, I think, before we were finally able to get Mom on a plane out of Croatia. Showing up every day in the morning at the hospital and then being told to come back at 2, and then the doctor was gone. Just, you didn't let up. Chuck's right. I really do feel like you guys had a couple extra hours in the day. Lizzie, you too. Lizzie, thank you so much for how you showed up. I think you did save Mom. If you hadn't been, it was funny watching both of these guys and their differing strategies with dealing with the bureaucracies because we had 2 overlapping insurance policies by accident. Dad was talking to Blue Cross Blue Shield, and Lizzie was talking with the travel insurance company. And Dad is of the school of escalate early and often when dealing with bureaucracies, and that worked. He went straight to the top. Thanks again, Gerard, for helping with that. Lizzie was the good cop, and she just had a nice little relationship with like 5 or 6 different people at the travel insurance company, and that worked too. You guys both got a plane for Mom. Lizzie got a plane for Mom from Croatia to a very swanky hospital in Athens. Thank you also to all the doctors at Hygeia Hospital. All the Uber drivers in Athens, when they dropped us off at the hospital, were like, "Oh, that's the good one." It was actually a private hospital that turned out to be in-network for Blue Cross Blue Shield, which was interesting. And then, Dad, you got her on the plane home. And so just thank you so much for the work that you put in while we were over there. And then when we got back here, you guys just kept on working. I was taking naps and thinking about death and songs and stuff like that, and Dad and Lizzie were writing the obituary and sending out invitations and planning the menu for various family gatherings and all sorts of behind-the-scenes work. Max, Lizzie's husband, also did an incredible amount of behind-the-scenes work. Thank you so much for keeping all of us fed, especially Lizzie. Lizzie needs her Lizzie food. And and just for showing up and being there and helping us with all of the just insane odds and ends that come up when a life gets cut short. There's still a lot of stuff we got to figure out. Andy, thanks so much for being there for Misa while Mom was gone. I know you guys both did a lot to help care for Noni, and you were there every day with her, and I think you did it the best job you could, breaking the news to Noni as softly as possible. Seems like it was still maybe a little too much for her, but I don't think there's anything you could have done about that. And thanks so much for being there every day when Mom got back. It meant so much, and it's been great spending this time with you. Sherry, my Aunt Sherry, you were incredibly helpful in navigating all of this medical stuff. I really appreciate your research and your knowledge and your ability to learn and think through the risks and the challenges and sharing your experience with cancer, other people you've known who've gone through this stuff. It was incredibly valuable and really helped us think our way through a lot of these tough choices. And thank you so much for that. Aunt Jenna and Cousin Carly, thank you so much for being there for Mom and her last couple days at home. Chip and Sylvia, you guys have been there with us. You were there with Mom in Croatia, and I know you were helping take care of her there and taking care of Dad. And when we got back, you just immediately were back there again, seeing Mom in the hospital, and really, I think, being there for Dad and keeping him fed and feeding him tortilla soup. And I don't know, they're neighbors, so Dad would just go over across the street for dinner. And I know it meant so much for Mom for you guys to be there too. Mark and Jane Phillips, they're not here now, but they were there with Mom for the last, Jane was there with Mom for the last couple days, and she even slept on the couch in Mom's room at night to keep an eye on her. And Mark came up later to bring a little levity and camaraderie, both of which were really appreciated. Bob and Karen Lippett, thanks so much. Bob, your urology expertise was invaluable for figuring out what was going on with Mom's kidneys, and frequently much more helpful than the Croatian doctors. So thank you so much for that. And Karen, just for your support of all of us and of Mom. Amy and John, thanks for coming by the house and being there and being in community with us. Shanta and Kat, I ran into you guys at the hospital that one day. That was really nice. Thank you for going to visit her there. Karen Gearing again, I think you and maybe with some accomplices managed to sneak Finley into the hospital ward. He was a service dog who just happened not to have his credentials on him at that moment. And he really, I think, did do a service. So thank you for that. I know that meant the world to my mom. Well, thank you, Katie, obviously. When we found out that Mom was sick with potentially pneumonia in Croatia, and I figured I had to go, Katie was just 100% ready to drop everything and come with me. And at first I was like, no, you got to stay here and take care of the cat, and you got all your stuff, and, hold down the fort. And then Katie was like, all right, really? If you want me to come, I'll come. And then I was like, okay, I guess I do want you to come. And she came. She dropped everything and was there with us in Croatia for, 5 days. And it really meant a lot. And I know it meant a lot to Mom, too, for you to be there, to get the whole family together. Well, we missed Max, but Max, you were there later, so. But yeah, we had a little family gathering there in the hospital room every day at 4:30 to 5:30. And it really helped me so much to have you there. Jay Plummer, thanks for sorting the mail. And just for generally being there for Dad and for all of us. Alex and Nicole, thanks for dog sitting for what was supposed to be, 10 days and turned into 3 weeks, something like that. That was incredibly helpful. And, just for being here. I'm worried I've forgotten other people, and I know so many of you have been sending prayers and thoughts and have helped us out in ways that I probably just wasn't aware enough to remember. But so, blanket thank you to all of you. Also, thank you to everybody who donated to longevity. I know that would mean a lot to Mom. There's 3 specific Croatian people I would like to thank. Actually, 4. Mom's next door neighbor in the hospital room. There were 3 women in the room, no curtain. The next door neighbor, Anna, was a very sweet lady who only spoke about 4 words of English, but she was able to communicate through her very kind daughter, Ivana, that Mom was a very kind woman. She's very sick, but very kind. And Ivana gave us her business card and said if we need anything to let her know. And I wish I had asked her, should we bribe the doctors? Looking back on it. A very kind lady, the hostess at one of our hotels, Ivona, was praying for Mom every day and made us text her to let us know that we got to Athens. And my taxi driver, Igor, who helped me out when I accidentally showed up at the airport to fly to Athens with Mom's passport instead of my own. We figured it out. Yeah, Lizzie. Oh yeah, thank you again, Lizzie. She got in an Uber and was like an executive in the back of the Uber talking to the insurance companies while driving to swap passports with me. So that was awesome, very efficient. Thanks to Dr. Carrie Lee, Mom's oncologist, who called us a couple times while we were out in Croatia and was incredibly helpful and really showed genuine concern and care for Mom. And I know Mom thought the world of her and loved her, and that she got amazing care. All right, so I know that's not everybody, but one last thank you is just to Mom. And I'm just incredibly grateful for so many things, for just an uncountable number of moments, big and small, that I shared with her and that we all shared with her. I can't even conceive of it as just the number of times she drove me to a thing that she definitely didn't want to be at. The number of times she let me and my buddies, me and Yashar and Jason and Andrew and Rob and whoever, and even my like stoner friends that she didn't really like, she just let us all hang out and do our thing and didn't judge us and gave us a space to be kids. I think she took me to every playground in North Raleigh. She took me all over the place. She took me to the same aquarium in Tampa Bay 6 times. Just the unending support, the blank checks at the bookstore, all the educational stuff she got me into. I really just owe so much to her, and it's, I'll stop rambling, but just, Mom, thank you so much. So, in closing, I'll just say, thank you so much to all of you for being here and for the ways you showed up for Mom, not just in the last few weeks, but in all the years, all the good years and all the tough years. Your love was, for my mom, the most important thing in the world. And there's so much love in the room right now. And I know that either does or would mean so much to her. I know if there's anything at all in the world that she would want, it would be for all of us to be together. So everybody, thank you so much for being here. Please feel free to linger in the space as long as you need to. But also, if you want to come with us back to the house for more love and memories and good sadness and good alcohol, come on back. 1921 Nipper Road. Yeah, everybody.